Hey, everybody. Alex here, and we also have...
I'm Cameron Deshanko.
Oh, hi, Cameron. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. This is the first ever episode of guys talking about sports. So that's kind of a cool thing. That's kind of a cool milestone. And I think this is the first time really delving too much into just sports. Up to this point, it's been a lot of guys talking about stuff, so...
Oh yeah, I'm here for the ride.
All right, so I think it's a great place to start with the wild ride that was Daytona. How about that Daytona 500?
Yeah, I liked it. I actually didn't see the race at all, but yeah, I'm happy for Joe Gibbs Racing, and it's funny. I've watched racing now for a long time, and I've followed the sport pretty much for most of my life, and it looked like from what I saw, was a race that was full of wrecks and a lot of chaos. But overall, I think it's going to be a great season. I personally am a big fan of Ryan Blaney, and hopefully he can get going this year, and maybe we'll see him in victory lane, and who knows. What about you, Alex? What do you think about that, huh?
No, I thought that was good. I really liked the race. Catching the end of it, I didn't watch the whole thing, and I know, shame on me.
That's okay.
But I kind of came on, I think, with 70 to go, and I did homework while I was watching. And
oh, me too. No, not really.
There were 3 wrecks with final 8 to go.
Well, one of them was with 18 cars, and
one took out half the field, and then another one took out like half of everybody left. So by the end of this thing, there was really 3 cars racing for it, and then a handful of other guys who were kind of in, but you knew they weren't gonna really push for it. So Joey Logano had a chance.
Yes, he did.
A couple times toward the end, he was trying to get out and around, and Kyle and Denny just held him off.
Yeah, well, he didn't also get help from Michael McDowell. I mean, he was looking for help to get. He was waiting for. He was driving the 34 car, I believe, and he was in a Ford. And I guess he didn't get help on that last restart. But other than that, nothing you can do. Right, Alex?
No. I was just adjusting the audio levels, honestly. When you have 2 teammates up front, it's a hard time to get around, and you really need somebody of your own. And Keselowski's car wasn't really functioning; it was taped together, and at one point his car couldn't start.
Yeah.
So the fact that he finished on the lead lap is a miracle. Like, his car didn't work, but it happened at the red flag stoppage because of how bad the accident was. So he was able to get back on, start from the back of the pack, and then another accident, he was able to pick up his lap back, and yeah.
Let me apologize to the audience. I'm a NASCAR fan, so Alex brought me on here, and he was like, let's talk NASCAR, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
Oh, no, it's good. I enjoy talking NASCAR because I think it's something that kind of gets overlooked by a lot of sports.
And it's also one of those sports that I think people need to go and see for themselves to really understand. Mm-hmm. Like last year, I went to Pocono, and it was a really great race. I don't know. The sport's changed so much over the past 10, 15 years that I don't know. It's just a different environment, but still. I'd love to go to Daytona, honestly. It's they renovated the track like 2 years ago. And,
I would have loved to be at this one. That huge wreck, watch that live. That's one thing about it. It's one of the only sports where people hope people fuck up. Like, people are actively sitting there going, I really hope Danica goes missile mode. I hope she gets in the back of Keselowski and takes out the pack. It's really interesting because, I mean, in hockey, you might be sitting there hoping for a fight, which is part of the game, but it's not part of the game. There's only really a couple sports that are like that. Like basketball, somebody fouls somebody, they stop the game and say, no, that guy gets to take a couple shots at that net. In hockey, somebody gets tripped from behind. They give him a chance to go shoot on net. There's a change in the game. There's something weird. NASCAR has this new point system.
Yeah.
Where they kind of do it where like you win one You get pole, you get points. You lead a segment of the race, you get points. You win a race, you're in the chase as long as you finish above a certain line. It's an interesting format. They keep changing it. Meanwhile, like NASCAR, as you said, like 15 years ago, it was like, well, you race during the season, and whoever's the best wins it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't playoffs. And then it's so funny they made that change. And then Jimmy Johnson went and won 5 championships in a row because he knew how to game the system. I guess. I mean, he's a great race car driver too, so I'm not going to take it away. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how their team did it, but like they were almost never the number one going into things, and then all of a sudden the money races they would win. And I guess it's because Chad Knaus, just like Bill Belichick, knows how to cheat when it matters. I'm joking. I love you, Patriots fans. We're going to get to you later. We're going to talk about you. Don't worry. King Brady will be talked about in a couple of minutes.
All right. Well, you go for it, Alex.
You go for it. No, just the thing that really hurt NASCAR, which is the thing that I think nobody wants to say. Everybody thinks, well, is it rule changes? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Everybody complains. NASCAR viewership on television has actually gone up over the last couple of years from what I heard. Like, it hasn't really dipped that much. Their big problem was their race attendance has gone down because everybody has better TVs at home. They don't have to go to the race anymore. And here's the thing. If it ends up being... some of the television broadcast is really interesting when they do, let's turn it up, let's really get the volume going, let's watch them from a low angle, let's watch 2 guys battle it out in the middle of the pack. They find something. When you're at a race, I was at Dover a couple years back, and there was like 100 laps in a row where nothing happened. Like...
I was at Darlington. Well,
they just raced around for 100 laps. Nothing.
I was not at Darlington, I should say. But a couple of years back, I remember there was a race where Matt Kenseth won, and I think like they only had 2 cautions in it, and he beat Kyle Busch with like 5 to go.
The
and
Dover race I went to had 1 caution, and it was for debris.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a wreck.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I will probably follow it. I'll probably follow it for the rest of my life, but even I don't know. I follow it a little differently now than I used to. So
you used to be more into it when Dale was in it.
Well, I yes, but I also watched it a lot more. Like now, I enjoy racing as a whole, but the stage racing is, I think, harder to follow now. Because it's almost like 3 races in one, but you know that's the way the sport's going. And
yeah, well, just like another one, the one we're gonna get to next, we're gonna talk about baseball. They're trying to do this pace of play thing where you have to pitch on a certain pitch count.
Mm-hmm.
You have to meet certain rules as a pitcher, so that every 20 seconds you got that ball coming in, because they don't want a guy sitting there scratching his nuts for a minute.
Yeah.
And they want to limit mound visits and pitcher changes. And if you change a pitcher, he's got to face 3 batters. I'm kind of in favor of that because last year, the Tampa Bay Rays at one point, they had a game where they put like 14 different pitchers in. They used their whole bullpen because they're like, oh, this guy's good against this guy. Let's make a change. And every change takes about like a 5-minute commercial break kind of thing. Every pitcher change. There was 14 guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's what? Right there, you've got. Well, it's probably not 5 minutes a thing. That's an exaggeration. A minute or 2. Let's just say it's a 1-minute commercial break. That's still 15 minutes out of the game.
Yeah.
Just for watching a pitching change. And I think it's more like 2 minutes, so that's like half an hour out of the game. They said the average length of a game last year was up from where it used to be. So it's like it's hovering right around 3 hours. They want to get it back down towards like 2.5, 2 if they can get it, because sometimes it's hard to commit to what? There's 162 games. Are you going to sit down? They had games go for 4 hours last year.
You ever think that the MLB will ever like lessen the amount of games in a year?
I've
thought about that a lot. Like, I don't follow baseball that much. I've actually never attended an MLB game. I've attended.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never attended one, but I think maybe maybe it would be beneficial for the sport to cut back on their games. But then again, maybe not. Like I said, I don't follow it that closely. But obviously, right now there's a lot of noise around Bryce Harper.
Oh yeah, I have to say, Bryce Harper, wherever he lands, they're getting a hell of a player. Now, last season he only batted like 240 something. Now, he had batted like a couple of years back. I think he was like a 300 and like 58 homers or something like that, which is, NL MVP caliber stuff. Well, he did win MVP, so it's just interesting. You hear the Phillies are talking with him, and they're probably the biggest contender because they're probably wanting to do like 11 years, $330 million or more.
Yeah.
Because Machado just got a 10-year, 300, and Harper's like, whatever Machado is, I'm more. I'm worried that I heard I'm a Yankees fan. Oh, and we just lost a subscriber. Anyway, I'm a little worried that the Yankees are going to give Harper an offer out of nowhere because Machado was there for the taking. He was the perfect candidate. You trade Andujar, you get a top-notch pitcher. Your rotation's insane. You go win a World Series this year, and then you still have Machado for however many years it was, and he's 26 now. He's top 10 player in the league. You add that, you get rid of Andujar, who can't field, and you add a great pitcher. You pick up Machado, and your team's set. Now what are they going to do? They're going to take Andujar, who's a bad fielder, put him out there. They're going to pick up Bryce Harper, who's a bad fielder. They're going to put him in the lineup. He's going to strike out 200 times. He's going to bat 225, and he's stuck on the Yankees for 11 years. And then they're trying to dump him anywhere, and they're going to give him up and a prospect just to take his contract. I hope that doesn't happen, and I think Harper is too good of a player for that to happen. But look at the Phillies. They gave Ryan Howard a couple of years ago. They gave him this mega contract, tore his ACL the next season, and he was a mediocre player the rest of his career and finished playing for Lehigh Iron Pigs or something like that. He finished his, he was on trajectory to be like a Hall of Fame guy, and he might still get in there, but Ryan Howard was such a solid player. He got hurt, and he never was the same.
Yeah. Well, I remember I followed it a little bit years ago when the Phillies were making the run in the World Series, and I think over time, like you see in sports, how you have your ups and your downs, and even if Philly doesn't get Bryce Harper, they're going to be still a very good team, and it's just the name of the game. I mean, New York has a good cap space, and the real good teams and the real good deals are never talked about. They're always kind of they just kind of show up, and maybe it's a good thing that sometimes it might be a good thing that teams don't really go out in the public and make a big scene. I don't know. It's all going to play out, and I'm sure that whatever happens it'll just be what it's going to be.
I just think it's funny since when I wake up in the morning, I kind of switch between NHL Network and MLB Network. I also would do NFL during the season, but NHL and MLB Network are the ones I'll watch all year long. And catching some of the baseball off-season stuff, for the last handful of months here, every day's been, where's Harper and Machado going? Where's Harper and Machado going? Are they going to get mega money? At one point, Manny Machado was going to get a 3-year deal or something for nowhere near the money he was supposed to get because nobody wanted to pay the money. And then all of a sudden, everybody started talking, these huge contracts, these big deals. And then all of a sudden, Padres, 10 years, $300 million. You're taking Machado, who really could have fit perfectly in New York, where he can hit home runs, where he can hit 300, where he can be in a position where he wants to be because he always wanted to be a Yankee. Now he's in the Padres in a pitcher's park where he's not going to hit anywhere near 40. He was hitting, he was a 40 home run, near 40 guy, top of the league with the Orioles, who are terrible. In batter's park. You're going to a pitcher's park. He was just on the Dodgers losing a World Series, and you can go anywhere, and you choose for the money to go to the Padres where you're going to not do so well, and then everybody's going to complain about the money you're getting paid. I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, they paid for Hosmer last year, and I know he's supposed to be good, and I know they have a lot of young prospects. They have the number 2 prospect in baseball, all these things. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how those are going to turn out. And as Machado, you're going to suck this year because the Padres aren't good. I mean, I'm sorry. They'll be competitive. I think the Padres will push for like a 78 to 80 win season with Machado, but I just don't see why you would go there when New York was perfect for them. I mean, New York, if they have Machado, they honestly are a 110 win team this year, easy. And like, you look at the moves they already made. Yankees are crazy good. They added Paxton through a trade. So their rotation looks crazy good. Like, CeCe's their number 5 pitcher. Mm-hmm. That's how you know you got a good rotation, because he's still got it. He's still like a 3.5 to 3.8 ERA guy. Mm-hmm. And I really think that rotation is going to be great. I think their lineup's crazy good. And maybe they thought, we don't need another bat. We don't need Machado. And Duhar's almost as good of a hitter. And Duhar's fielding is so bad. He's such a bad fielder because he does this chicken wing thing, and then he tries to like 2-step it. Just grab it off the ground and throw it. You don't have to do... Everything's not... I get irritated watching them sometimes. You can tell that when Alex wakes up, he does watch NHL and MLB. But when I wake up, I just brush my teeth and wash my face. So I think it's funny, though. Yankees did add a lot of good stuff to their bullpen. I mean, you could make the argument that, hey, if they want to add one more piece, if they're going to do it, skip out on Machado, go get Craig Kimbrell, and basically say that your bullpen will not be defeated. Mm-hmm. You will use Kimbrell as your setup guy, keep Chapman as your closer, and then all of a sudden, you've got a bullpen where your starter only has got to go probably about 5 innings, and if you got the lead, you're probably going to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'll have a crazy good bullpen if they did something like that, but their bullpen's already good, so I don't know that it's necessary. I'm sure. You know what? You're asking the wrong guy. But yeah, it'll probably be them or the Red Sox again. Yeah, those boys from up north. Red Sox got a squad, but they lost a lot, and the Yankees got a whole lot better. Severino got money, so I'm hoping he pitches good. I hope if Severino plays the way he played in the first half of the season and the playoffs, Yankees are going to win the World Series next year. A lot of confidence there, Alex Fair. A lot of confidence. We don't need Machado, man. He's stunk with the Orioles. He'll stink with the Padres. Here we go, baby. Yankees all the way. You know how they're like, you're not supposed to be biased in sports talk? No, yeah. Coming right out with that. But no, I'm joking. I try not to be too biased. I mean, Alex, I try to be very biased. Now, I think that's one of those weird rules where they want you to not be too passionate about a team. But then it's like, if you have a huge passion for a team, why would you just throw it in the garbage? Why would you just be like, yeah, that passion, I don't have it anymore, If you really like a team, I don't see what the problem is. But I do know we got to move on here. But all in all, I'm happy to see baseball be back, Spring training's here. Mm-hmm. We're going to get the hitters here. Yep. And we're going to be full swing. Baseball will be back before we know it. And all of a sudden, I will be a happy camper. Sounds like a plan. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of do a quick rundown of NHL and NBA, their kind of current standings at the moment. Whoops. Yep, burp right into the microphone. Silly me. So let's take a look at the NHL playoffs. I should have already had this up for you guys, but I'm a selfish bastard, so that's... So, in the Eastern Conference, our playoff teams are the Lightning, Bruins, Maple Leafs. Oh, they're given to me by the divisions. Okay, anyway, that's fine. I was trying to look at a playoff scenario because that's what I searched, but that's fine. That's okay. Okay, anyway, I'll just give you a quick little rundown of what it looks like here. Wow, the Metro's a little weak this year. But, hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. Hey, the Capitals weren't this shining team last year, and they finally got it done. I know they just had a losing streak, but I really think your contenders here, Lightning look real good, so you can't count them out. 46, 11, and 4. That's pretty crazy. That's Golden State Warriors level stuff. Yeah. So, hey, when you got a guy like Vasilevsky, though, in net, you know you have a chance to win every night. Yeah. And the Lightning are crazy good. Boston Bruins have themselves a squad. I really like what they got. Maple Leafs, I think they're going to be contenders. They have a lot of young talent, so they'll be good for a while. Mm-hmm. You got Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, and those are two guys who can win you a game on any given night. Canadians, when you have Carey Price in net, you could do it. If you don't, because he's hurt all the time, and you can't. Islanders, I don't know that the Islanders, I think they're playing much better than their talent is. That's not a disrespect to those guys. I just think you look at all the other squads in even just their division, and you got the Capitals and the Penguins behind them. You're like, you got Ovechkin and Crosby behind the Islanders. Like, Tavares left, so that's crazy good for them, but it's like they lost Tavares and they're better. How did this happen? But the other thing is they're playing really good on the back end. Their goals are a lot lower than the teams behind them, though. They're 30-plus goals behind the Capitals and Penguins. Mm-hmm. So they've played good situational hockey, and that helps. And then the Blue Jackets are there. I don't think the Flyers are going to make it. They were doing too bad. I know that you go on a win streak. It helps, but you start 9 different goaltenders in a season. You have 9 different goalies. I don't care who you are. Things went wrong this year. You don't. That doesn't happen. You don't have 9 guys. That means like you're trying everybody out, and it's an NHL record. Nobody's ever had that many goalies start for them in a season. Yes, there's been a lot of injuries, but I'm a Reading Royals fan. I have season tickets, and we go up. And they're calling somebody up every other day. The Flyers are like, well, time to try the next guy. Let's see if this all works. Let's not invest in good players. Let's make the young guys do better than they are. Mm-hmm. Let's not develop them. Let's try them. And if they're not good, we throw them in the trash can. It's the Flyers way. No, no, I'm joking. But in all seriousness, if you're a Flyers fan, you got to be either excited or disappointed. They made a trade last weekend that made me scratch my head so bad. I have no idea what they were thinking. They traded a young prospect guy, Stolars, for what the heck's his name? Oh, well, now this is bad. I forgot to write that down. I had it written down on my other sheet, but of course I didn't bring that one. I brought this one.
Well, why were you scratching your head? What was like?
They traded this big-time prospect guy who's really good, and when he was playing with the Royals, he was good. He was good with the Phantoms. He's a good prospect, and I know he's had a couple injuries, and they're going to throw him in the trash can. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles have an injured, whimpering dog in Carson Wentz, and they're going to go with Nick Foles.
Yeah.
No, they're not. That's what they should. Yeah. That's what they should do. And we're going to get to that. Everybody's getting hyped now. Everybody's getting ready. Because we're going to talk Nick Foles versus Carson Wentz in a couple of minutes here. Okay. And I think people are not going to be ready for what comes out of that. Finishing up on hockey, we got the Jets who got wrecked 7-1 last night, which... Holy crap. Yeah. I caught a bit of that. The Avalanche wrecked them, and the Avalanche aren't even that. I mean, the Avalanche have good offense this year, but their defense is just as bad as their offense is good. Mm-hmm. They're behind the Stars, but they've scored like 60 goals more than the Stars, so that says a lot. Blackhawks are potentially in the playoffs. And a couple weeks ago, they were the worst team in hockey. So that's
wild.
crazy.
That's pretty wild.
They've turned things around. The Minnesota Wild have been up and down. The LA Kings are not out of the playoffs yet, but they have the worst team. They're the worst team in hockey. So that's the thing. Hockey, the Senators are the worst team in hockey, but they're an atrocity. But we're gonna keep moving forward. They dumped all their top guys. I mean, when they traded Erik Karlsson away, they traded him away for, I think they got like 5 prospects and like 6 draft picks. Like they got a ton for him.
Yeah.
But if none of those end up being anything, you just traded the best offensive defenseman we've seen in 20 years for some magic beans, you know? So, I mean, all over the place here. I think the Flames could go for it. I think they'll make a run. I think the Predators are, because Peter Laviolette's a great coach, and the Flyers made a mistake getting rid of him.
Yeah.
They got rid of him, and they're like, no, we're going to be fine. It's all about the players. And then what happened? When Claude Giroux doesn't have somebody to keep him in line, they lose games. They lose games, and that's just, it's crazy. Because I think with hockey, every team that makes a playoff has a shot. Meanwhile, the next sport, we're going to go to NBA here. There's 3 teams that could win the championship this year, and everybody else is just there.
Yeah.
Some people might disagree with me on that, but like NBA is not balanced right now. Just look at the top here. So, for sake of things, in the East currently, I'm going to tell you something. Tell me if you think this is a playoff team, okay?
All right. Go ahead.
26-30.
No.
16 and a half games behind the leader.
No.
6-4 in the last 10.
Nope.
They a playoff team?
No.
Yep, that's right. That's the 8th seed in the East. The Hornets at 27-30 are 7. So we've got 2 teams with losing records in the playoffs in the East. Now you also got the Bucks and the Raptors, who are incredibly good. And then you've got, on that next brain, you got the Pacers, the Celtics, and the 76ers, who I think they have a chance. Everybody after the Sixers, though, the Nets at 30-29, the Hornets at 27-30, the Pistons at 26-30. You can't tell me you think those are playoff teams. Heck, the East is so weak this year. Technically, mathematically, the 11-47 Knicks aren't out of it yet.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting.
That's insane. You have 47 losses in the NBA, and they're not out of it yet.
It's going to be interesting to see if the Eastern Conference can, go up against the Western Conference in the finals, because I think there's a lot of star power in the West right now, obviously. But I think there's a lot of young teams over in the East, though. You got a lot of younger teams, and in the West, you've got a lot of older teams. Not older,
well, especially like the Spurs in the West are like ancient. Well, they were. They're kind of rebuilding, because for the longest time they had the same 3 guys as their core guys for like 15 years.
Yeah. But still, I mean, you have it. It's just going to be interesting to see, it's going to be interesting to see the future in the NBA.
I mean, does anybody think Golden State's not going to make the finals, though? Does anybody think
if they get
anybody's
injured,
going to
get injured, yes, they could miss.
Yes,
That's
every
anybody.
single guy in their lineup. Their starting 5 are all all-star players. I had somebody tell me that that's never happened in the NBA before.
Yeah,
all 5 starters are all-stars. That's incredible. I mean, that lineup. How do you think you're going to who has anywhere near that talent? And I had somebody tell me the Lakers, and I'm like, they're 10. They're 10th.
Well, but
in the West.
But here's the thing: look at the Phillies. Just 2 years ago, they weren't.
Oh, they were the worst team in baseball.
And now they're in the
hunt
hunt to get Bryce Harper. And all I'm saying is that look at what's changed in the NBA. Like last year, LeBron James was in Cleveland, and this year he's in LA, and it changed.
Oh yeah, for reference, look, the Cavaliers are 12-46. They're the 14th seed in the East. The only team worse than them is the Knicks, who I'm sure there's high school squads that could contend with the Knicks this year. They are terrible. But now I kid about the high school thing. A high school team's never going to beat a college team, and a college team's never going to beat a pro team. It's just the way the talent goes. Now, so I've always
You
heard
seem pretty confident about that.
I've always heard people go like Alabama could beat the Cleveland Browns, and I'm like, Alabama can't beat the Cleveland Browns. I think yes, you got a great coach and you
That's
got
a
a great
question
squad.
that maybe you should have your audience answer. Maybe the audience should answer that question.
Do you guys think the Browns could get beaten by Alabama? If you think so, I want to see everything about it in the comments.
Yeah, because that's something that I don't know. It depends on the year and depends who's on what team at
I
what
guess.
time.
I mean, the 0-16 Cleveland Browns against national champion Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's not fast forward. Let's rewind a year. So before the start of this season, so like last year, that squad for the Browns that went 0-16 versus the national champion Alabama Crimson Tide, I think it'd be a close game. But you have to sit here and go, NFL teams are comprised of the best talent of all the colleges. Flip side, Hugh Jackson can't coach his way out of a paper bag, and Nick Saban's one of the best coaches in college football history. You could make the argument that you think Nick Saban could outcoach Hugh Jackson. Now, the flip side is Nick Saban's always been a great recruiter, and his advantages are in getting great players in and outperforming the teams because they're better up front.
Well, he also worked with Bill Belichick for a while.
He did. I just don't know. I
In
know
order
this is
to-
bold here. I don't think Nick Saban's as good of a coach as some people do. I think he's a great coach, and I think he's great at recruiting. I think that's where he's better than everybody. But I think he wins all the time because his players are better. And when he was in the NFL, he couldn't win. And it's because I don't think he can maneuver people. I think he's just, I got a guy who's 50 pounds fatter and 3 inches taller. My guy's going to move your guy out of the way. And I'm going to run my guy right up the middle for 5 yards of carry, and we're going to win. And you know what? Alabama runs really good almost all the time. They always have the best them and Wisconsin always fight for the best offensive linemen. And it's just crazy that
Well, like coaches, the thing is with coaches is coaches are teachers, and in order to teach,
you have to have something good enough to teach. You know,
well, you have to know your players, and you have to know your students. Like,
well, look at Tom Brady. I mean, when he was coming out of college,
I think Alex is getting sick, probably.
Anyway, when Tom Brady was coming out of college, he had performed like a second or third round pick, but he got to the combine and he ran slow. He was this lanky dude who looked like he couldn't do anything, couldn't bench press, couldn't chuck it further than people. And he went from being like a second, third round grade guy, fell to 6th round, 199th overall. There are guys who got taken ahead of him that never played an NFL down, like quarterbacks who were taken before him.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Tom Brady has 6 Super Bowl rings. He's the only player in NFL history. Just every year the league has been around, and Tom Brady's the only guy to win 6 Super Bowls. And he's a guy nobody wanted. Nobody thought anything of him. And when he met his owner after getting drafted, he went up to him and said, "Oh, this is the greatest thing you've ever done." And Robert Kraft responded with, "Thank you, Kyle Brady." He didn't even know who he was. He thought he was the tight end on the team whose name was Kyle Brady. He didn't know who the dude was.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and wins 6. Well, the sniffle monster has got me today. But I think it's interesting to see that all the leagues have kind of had dynasties recently. You have the Patriots, who obviously, I mean, until Tom Brady and Bill Belichick retire, they're going to be in the playoffs every year. They have a chance at the Super Bowl every year. Basketball's had Golden State over the last handful of years here. NHL kind of had the Penguins for a bit there. Capitals were great for a lot of years. They just couldn't get the job done. Like, they finished the 1 seed like 3 years in a row, top team in hockey, and they couldn't get the job done against the Penguins. And, it was so annoying, and last year was huge when Ovechkin finally left it. And I think it kind of changed the balance of power in hockey because it looked like the Penguins were just going to keep going on a roll here, and we were all worried about them ripping off, 3 or 4 in a row. I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad the Capitals won, but
Can tell what team Alex is rooting for.
yeah. But then even baseball, the Red Sox have looked good the last so many years, and it annoys me because it's like,
Oh, you'll get over it. You'll get over it.
Boston.
You'll get over it.
So I kind of teased this a little bit ago, but the Philadelphia Eagles are going to trade away the guy who won them a Super Bowl and took them from being a bad team to a playoff team this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're trading that guy away. The guy who, reminds me of Tom Brady, the guy who, listen to these stories. Tom Brady, guy, nobody thought was going to do anything, comes in because the person ahead of him got hurt, takes him on to win a Super Bowl. You know what the Patriots did? They took Drew Bledsoe, a guy with a 10-year, $100 million contract, the future of their franchise. They shipped him off to Buffalo for a first-round pick. You know why? Because Tom Brady was the guy. He got the job done. Nick Foles, he's the guy. He got the job done. He won a Super Bowl. He took him back, and he's one Alshon Jeffrey drop away from maybe winning another one. I mean, did you watch the Super Bowl? The Rams couldn't do anything.
I'm glad I didn't, to be honest with you. I really am. The Eagles. What a good topic. So I personally, when they made the playoffs, it was going to be an uphill battle. It was going to be hard. They had, if you compare last year to this year, they had home field advantage all through the playoffs last year. I'm just saying that's just a fact. This year it was going to be a tougher battle.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think it's a win-win situation anywhere because you're going to lose somehow. If you keep Nick Foles, you have that inner battle in Philly. If you let him go, you're letting go of great talent. But it's funny. He came back. They let him go once already before, and they brought him back. Mm-hmm. Things change in time. You just it's so funny. You look back a couple years ago, and had you said, if you asked anybody in Philly, hey, you think Nick Foles is going to take us to a Super Bowl, they would have said no. In fact, if you would have asked somebody in Philly a couple years ago, do you think that Nick Foles, we're going to re-sign him and bring him back to Philly? I would say probably about half of the people would say probably not, if not more.
Yeah.
So you can't predict the future. I think they have great talent with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is one of those players that...
He's a great young guy, but we don't know how he can do in the playoffs. He has 0 playoff victories.
Yeah, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's just the way it is in sports, One wrong play can cost the team the season or
the Super Bowl,
the Super Bowl. It's going to be interesting to see because, I think Philly right now has a really good balance. You see a lot of teams like even New England. New England has always had a good balance. They're not a team that, even when they lose, they're very balanced and they recover and they're always calm.
They know their game plan.
And they keep their ego out of the way.
Yeah, Tom Brady's one of the lowest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, for a starter. And it's kind of crazy to think about that because he's the greatest who's ever put on a jersey.
Yeah.
And you have to sit there and go, he takes less so that the team could be better. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the smartest decision you could make? He knows, I take a little less money. We can have better players on this team. Money, do you want 6 championships and to be the best player who ever played the game? Or do you want some more money? Money fades away, man. You're going to spend it on something. It's bullshit. A championship, that's the greatest moment, as an athlete you can experience,
Yeah.
Isn't that the ultimate goal? And then you see a guy like Machado go take the money. And if you could go to a market where you can win or you go to a market where you get paid a little more, if you're already going to make $25 million a year, is $30 million going to be that noticeable? I've never understood that argument. I've never understood, well, he went for the money. He went for a couple million more. I mean, I have to figure there's something else in that decision. I have to figure Manny really liked San Diego and he liked the environment. And he liked where he was going to be, and they made him feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that putting on a Yankees jersey is going to be stress every day for the whole season. You are going to be one of the leaders of the team. Mm-hmm. And when you have a team like the Yankees, who are like the clear dynasty of a sport, mm-hmm. being the face of a franchise like that takes guts. And Aaron Judge does it perfectly. And they also have Stanton. They have all these big names. Can you add another Machado in there and not have tension? Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing. I wonder if the Yankees stayed away, because Machado's a guy who, I mean, if you watched the playoffs last year, he ran through a couple of guys. He made a couple of plays that were called hustle plays, but, I mean, I wonder if they were worried about that side of things, too, mm-hmm. and the image. Mm-hmm. New Yorkers, you do too many of those, you're going to get called out. And I think adding on to that, real quick, just to talk about some baseball stuff here. I know on MLB they've put on some movies and stuff, and I've caught them. So I watched Major League 2. I have a review for that coming out. That should be interesting because Major League, the first one's a famous, very famous movie. It's a great movie.
I've seen it.
I really like it. And it's kind of a favorite of that genre for me. And then they also put on The Natural with Robert Redford, and that's a great one. And I have a review for that. And I already did a review for Ken Burns' baseball documentary. Mm-hmm. Now, it is like 14 hours or something. And actually, no, I think it's longer than that. It's really long. Mm-hmm. So you got to like devote yourself to it. But it's so incredible. I watched that. And I think baseball movies, it's so interesting that they kind of gone away. Like in the 90s, they were like a genre. Like late 80s, because of Kevin Costner, he did like 3 baseball movies in a row. And all of a sudden, baseball was a thing. Mm-hmm. So, I think we got time for probably 2 more things here real quick. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have to cut it there.
Yep.
So, the first thing here is, have you heard of the AAF?
I have not.
Okay, so on CBS, they've been playing, there's a new football league.
Oh, actually, you know what? I have heard
football.
that. I haven't looked into that.
I've caught a bit of it. It's actually pretty interesting because you get to see a lot of these guys who are actually in the NFL, like Trent Richardson's on the Alabama team. So that's kind of interesting because he was a big-time player when he was at Alabama, and he was an NFL bust. He is a guy who came in and could only run for 3.5 yards a carry. Now, he'd run over 5 guys getting those 3.5 yards, but I feel like he was so good in college because he can run somebody over.
Yeah.
But when you're on Alabama, you're not going to get touched for 5 yards. I can run over a guy after that. I could do this, that. It's just interesting to see that he's doing pretty good again because he's going against not as good talent. These are former NFL guys. These are guys out of the league, and it looks like Trent Richardson's kind of kept up, so that's been kind of interesting to see. But do you think it's going to last? Do you think America has space for 2 football leagues?
Well, I don't know. I think there's room for anything, but the real question is are the fans going to like it? That's what's really going to drive it. We have you have arena football, and people. There's not a lot of people that follow it, but that still exists. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's one of those things that I think time will tell, and maybe people will decide.
I also heard is talking about that, I think it'll do fine for this season. Next year, the XFL comes back, the WWE Wrestler Football League thing, which used to be a thing for a season, and it failed miserably because who wants to hear a football player talk about, they would hand the mic to the guy, and then he'd go talk about a storyline, and nobody cared. They just wanted to see him hit each other.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that's going to do. I have no idea how it's going to do when, listen to this, when NFL's not in action, here's everything that goes on. You have the NFL draft process, talking about that. You have the Canadian Football League. You have the Arena Football League. Now you have the AAF. And you're telling me we can have XFL on top of that. Plus, there's people talking about how we should have summer league college games and other things and tournaments and this, that, and the other thing. And I had somebody else tell me that they should stretch the bowl season. Somebody told me they should stretch the bowl season because they said, well, the players are still around for that year in college. They're going to still be around for the summer. Why don't we just have bowl games and the championship in the, on the other part of the year? And I'm like, I think it's getting out of hand. I mean, how much football can we take? Now, the flip side of that is, over in Europe with soccer leagues, in England, the Premier League, the Barclays Premier League, is the biggest soccer league in the world, has Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal. It's the thing where, wake up for soccer in the morning. Their thing works that they have 4 divisions. You have top flight, that's the Premier League, your top guys, and you have, you get relegated, you go down. Soccer works weird. Over here in America, we have minor leagues, and players work up through them, and they come up.
Yeah.
Over in Europe, the top 3 and bottom 3 flip. So if you have a bad year, your team has been demoted. And if you have a really good year, you can go up. So you'll have a team like a couple of years ago, Leicester came up, and everybody's like, Leicester had been up and down. They win the championship a couple of years ago. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I just think it's so interesting that in soccer you have this moving piece where players are moving all over the place all the time. There's so many transfers. Players are traded for money. You're not really – there's no draft picks. There's no draft. There's space for all that. And over in Europe, they have so many soccer leagues. Everybody has all the flights. You have the Bundesliga in Germany. You have La Liga in Spain. You have all of these big-time leagues, and it works. Yeah. And over here in America – we kind of, for football, there's NFL, and then there's these other ones. Is there space for these other ones? Could they be looked at kind of like that? Is there space for them? Can they be here? But we already have minor leagues in other sports. Football doesn't have a minor league. Should they kind of think about turning these leagues into a minor league system? So they set something up where, you're an AAF? Okay, we like what you're doing. We're going to call you up. Are they going to have affiliated teams? Should they try that? And here's the other thing. With sports, I can go to a Reading Phillies game for $5, or I can go to an MLB game for $60. A lot of times I'm choosing to go to the Reading game. NFL, there's no minor league team to go to. You can't be like, okay, I'm not going to the Eagles. I'm going to go see the Reading Thunder or something like that. There's no kind of other thing. And an NFL game ticket's like $250 or something. If I had an alternative, I'd never go. And I think the NFL maybe is worried about that. I think they also had that whole problem with the kneeling, and they got called out for that, and they've had these other things. And football is, it seems like it's the most organized, but in a lot of ways, they kind of use college football as their minor leagues, but there's no official minor system, and then they wonder why these guys who get thrown out there day one don't succeed. It's like they never had a development process. They never got to work within your organization to build up to become that.
Yeah.
So you're never able to develop a franchise quarterback. Everybody wants them to just go out and win right away. And looking at what the Ravens did last year with just giving up on Flacco, going with Lamar Jackson – Lamar Jackson's not really a good thrower. He's going to be like a 50-something percentage completion guy, which is pretty bad. And he can run, and they're going to run him a lot, but it's only a matter of time until he gets hurt. I mean, he doesn't have the body build that Cam Newton does, and when Cam Newton runs around, he knows, I can dish it out too. Lamar Jackson doesn't have that. And here's the flip side. Cam Newton runs less and less every year because the damage gets done. How many years does Lamar Jackson have being effective? Why are guys not developed? Are they not worried about these guys? Look at RG3. He was supposed to be a guy. He got thrown away. And I think these are the kind of questions that could be answered in a follow episode. So, guys, I think that's going to be it for now because that's all the time we have.
Yep.
But I think this was a successful first episode. We got to talk about a lot. And
we should bring on some guests.
We'll bring on some guests. And I think doing this is kind of, this episode kind of gets our feet wet. We'll be better on the next one. We're going to keep giving new stuff. But I think doing it as like a weekly kind of thing, talking about everything that's going on in sports that week and kind of getting it to you, I think it's a nice little recap for you. It's like Sports Center, but without all the terrible stuff. No, Sports Sports Center, they always have to have a controversy. You ever realize that? There's always, this new controversy's going on. It helps ratings. Meanwhile, it's like, tell us the real stuff, you know? I feel like that's TV, though. Everything's got to be sensationalized, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really watch TV.
I don't
so.
watch the news, but I like sports news. I keep up with sports news, and that's I'm passing.
What are
it
you
on
saying, Alex?
I'm just saying, like, usually sports news isn't too, like, agendaized, and sometimes Sports Center, they're like, this man, and it's like, whoa, no. we don't need commentary. Oh, I don't watch a guy throw a ball. You know, like, I don't need commentary. Like, non-sports related commentary. So, that's going to be everything. We'll catch you guys again in episode 2.
Alrighty.
All right. See ya.
See ya.